let's start with this news breaking just in the last 20 minutes or so. The independent lawyer, the KC, investigating what the heck happened over there at Reform HQ, referenced the MP Rupert Lowe. 1 minute there were 5 of them. It looked like the A-team to many people. Rupert Lowe, a very high-profile member of that team, a very busy MP as well when it came to written and verbal questions. Then, of course, sensational fallout with Mr Farage and others. And so they brought a KC in to investigate, and now that KC has apparently found credible evidence of unlawful harassment of 2 women and some male members of the team as well. These were allegations of bullying and harassment, nothing... not to reduce that in any way, but just to give the context and reaffirm what the context is. Suggestions of bullying as distinct from anything else. 2 former employees, both highly qualified women, resigned after facing severe stress and alleged mistreatment. I mean, does this draw a line under Reform's case now and strengthen Nigel Farage's position that he was right to do what he did?
I think it depends who people are more loyal to, because I've just found that a lot of politics nowadays, and as I've sort of been observing this Reform fallout, it's almost like people become fiercely loyal to an individual, and they just whatever that individual says, they dig in. So there will be a lot of people who like Rupert Lowe, who for whatever reason they're angry with Nigel Farage. They'll hear this and they won't believe it. I honestly think that. I think the era we are in now, people won't believe it. They'll find some way of discarding it. They'll just dig into their own echo chamber and they'll continue supporting whoever they supported in the first place. I think that's what the information economy is like now. Yeah. I think it's about having an open mind. I think it's more sort of about building a tribal mindset.
Yeah, and I guess, look, with something like this, and the fact that it happened with Reform, which is a party where those that support Reform really do support Reform, and many people were very unhappy at what they thought was bad treatment of Rupert Lowe. We took calls on it. I see on social media people are very animated that they're no longer going to vote Reform, some of those people. I did say at the time, I'm not sure this is going to make any difference to overarching voting intentions. If you go to the ballot box and you were going to vote Reform, you probably still will. But nonetheless, it's upset some people. It's worth bringing the response from Rupert Lowe, who's made a post on X denying all allegations, calling them outright lies and a shameful attempt to smear his reputation after he questioned Nigel Farage. He claims the complaints were raised only after disciplinary action began against the 2 employees for serious offences and dismisses accusations of legal threats as an outright lie. Lowe describes the claims as exaggerated, citing trivial examples like a blank email being misinterpreted as undermining. He accuses Reform of using dark, dirty tactics and warns others of their willingness to target staff for political convenience. So it's kind of muddied the waters even further because he's making a number of accusations himself.
Yes, and I think that's predictable. That's what will happen. There will be a further muddying of the water and it'll just become ever more confusing, and each side will stick to whatever they said and there won't be any sort of general truth that people will adhere to. That's what I think. It's very interesting what you were saying, how much will this impact Reform's wider popularity, because I think there were a few polls that took place just after this whole row broke out saying that a lot of people didn't really even know who Rupert Lowe was. So that, support people who said, listen, Nigel Farage is the superstar politician who you want to lead Reform. Rupert Lowe is maybe well known in certain social media circles, but there's no way that the wider electorate sort of see him as a future leader. But, there is that vanguard, though, those sort of outriders on social media are the ones who give Reform all their energy, all their momentum. Yeah. Drive their presence online. And I'm still interested to see if that will dent the momentum in a way.
Indeed. Only local elections and by-elections, I suppose, will give us a little peek into what the appetite is like for Reform. I don't think it's fundamentally going to change in any massive way people's voting intentions, but it certainly is an interesting chapter. And just looking at the response from Rupert Lowe, it doesn't appear to be over yet either. We'll bring more on that story if we hear more. this afternoon. The other thing we've been talking about, Candice, is MPs getting a pay rise from April. It's a 2.8% pay rise. This is kind of roughly in line with inflation, but it does mean they've had a 20 grand pay rise since, well, in the last 8 short years, which is more than I think most people have had in the last 8 years. So fairly eye-watering stuff. 94,000 quid is a lot of money. Many MPs have actually criticised the decision. The Taxpayers Alliance argued MPs should be paid, pay should be tied to GDP per capita, reflecting the country's economic performance. Everyone's got a different way of sort of working it out. But whatever way you slice it, while the government are busy cutting benefits for disabled people and old people and farmers and God knows who else, they're giving themselves a pay rise while sticking their feet up in a VIP box at the O2 watching Sabrina Carpenter. Bad optics, right?
And the thing is, they're just going to get it from both sides. So they'll get it from the left for, yes, cutting all kinds of benefits or slashing the state, and they'll get it from the right, who just hates MPs being paid that much anyway. I mean, I think I agreed with what you said earlier, and many people have said this to me as well. Maybe we just need fewer MPs paid a lot more money. Because the thing is with MPs, we want it both ways. You know, we don't want them to be paid much, but then we get very upset at the quality of the politicians we have. And I think that's something that people comment on a lot, that we seem to have very poor quality politicians at the moment. I mean, you know, a lot of their speaking skills in Parliament aren't what they used to be. You know, we're not used to them, you know, sort of reading from pieces of paper like that. We're used to them being very articulate and good at speaking. And also there have been so many scandals as well. There's just been so many scandals with MPs from all different political parties. Yeah. I do think a lot of it is to do with the selection process as well. You know, that's well acknowledged that we don't necessarily get great politicians. You know, it's who the party selects, but also, you know, a lot of them have to be independently wealthy anyway to run for Parliament, because they have to pay for their own campaigns. So they need the money to be able to do that. And I think one of the issues is if they are in the top percentile of earners, they can become very detached from how ordinary people are living, and they can forget, you know, abstractly they can understand it, but they don't live it and they don't feel it. And that can be such a problem, because then you need those people who sort of have that memory of what it's like to struggle, and how it's not always down to the individual. Sometimes the system is bad or policies are bad, and you need them to be able to fight for that. And I think that they can forget about it, or if they've never lived like that anyway. So that can be an issue. But I don't think that we should, you know, punish MPs. We don't want it to be a punitive role. We do want to attract good people. You know, you want talented politicians, so you will have to pay them decently.
Well, that's right. But I do question certainly this lot of Labour MPs, that the party of government at the moment, where we saw some very public acts, very public displays of where they stand. This is before the election, on things like winter fuel allowance. There's a couple of lovely montages out there of those Labour MPs, good old die-hard socialists, holding up little banners saying, you know, we will look after pensioners, we will not remove the fuel allowance. And then not only did the government of the day, their party, remove it, these individuals voted for it as well. We've seen it happen. Council tax. We won't put up council tax. There's a cracking montage of about 20 times when Keir Starmer and others said, you know, we will not raise your council tax. And yet these are the very people that, you know, supposedly we're meant to say are the best. Now, I struggle to define anyone who can contradict their own philosophy to that extent as being any good. And I'm reminded of this next story as well, where we've got the solar slaves happening over there in China, as we will call them, where it's been discovered that most of the solar panels that Labour are likely to buy in order to stick them on schools and hospitals, which is part of Ed Miliband's dream, will come from China and were arguably made by the Uyghur Muslims, who are a tortured and abused group of people in China. Ed Miliband admitted the £180 million solar panels may well come from China. I'll take that as yes, they will come from China, because no one else really on the planet makes these things at that rate of knots. And yet, again, those same Labour MPs will be Labour are going to block a bid to ban this. So they're trying to ban it, and Labour are going to say, no, we'll make sure our MPs vote in favour of us allowing to do this. I mean, what kind of system have we got here, Candice?
Yes, yeah, and the way I interpret that is we're lacking in MPs who have real depth, who have independence of mind, integrity. I mean, they seem to be very conformist. It's true. I mean, how many does our system throw up any more Tony Benns, for instance? I mean, you might disagree with a lot of what he stood for, but he was a principled guy, and not in a sort of obstinate ideological way. This was, someone with deep integrity and deep principle. And he was intelligent, and you respected him. I mean, there are some like that, I would say, in Labour. I mean, Rosie Duffield, for instance, although now she's an independent MP. Yep. And I think that even though people, might not necessarily disagree with all her views, they respect her because they see that she's genuine in what she says. I think people really can see if you're a bit of a shapeshifter, if you're ruthless, if you seem to just shift your opinions with the wind. And I think that goes on a lot. And I do wonder if that's because also, who rises to prominence as a politician now? Maybe it's how you are on social media, for instance.
I think there's probably a bit of that, isn't there, as well?
Yeah. Yes. Can you imagine Margaret Thatcher with a Twitter account? Maybe she would have been really good. Maybe she would have been very entertaining on Twitter.
Yeah, they could have been like kind of sort of James Blunt style, sort of witty in the way that she did. I don't know. I mean, it could have gone horribly the other way. Who knows? Listen, Candice, we hit the clock, but thank you, Candice Holdsworth, the writer and the broadcaster. It's quite sad, isn't it? Well, I just gave that list of all the things that we're talking about Labour MPs in particular, because of course they are the party of government at the moment. Labour to block a bid to try and ban the solar panels made by slaves in China. We're going to talk to Ian Duncan-Smith on this, who has always had very consistent and forthright views on our relationship with China. I think this is another level territory because it's mostly to feed an evangelical thirst from Red Ed, who doesn't much care that people who've been abused and my goodness, just have a little read up of the treatment of the Uyghur people in China and you'll get an idea what a human rights abuse looks like. If these people are literally making the panels so that Ed Miliband can transport them over to this country to stick them on schools and hospitals as a way of achieving his erotic dream of net zero, then morally ethically speaking, Labour are finished, right? They were finished with the winter fuel allowance. They were finished with the council tax. They were finished with the farmers. But, I mean, if you were in any doubt or giving them the benefit of the doubt, they would certainly be finished on this one, you might think. And yet all those diehard socialists go, yeah, it's fine. No, do you not understand? A family was separated, brutally tortured, raped, attacked, God knows what. And now they're thrown into a factory with no wages, hardly any food, to make solar panels. And our government are buying them, for God's sake. I heard Ed Miliband as well. He thinks we're going to set up a company in this country that's going to make solar panels. We'll be making our own soon, so don't worry about it. I simply struggle to believe that. I cannot imagine for 1 second that China, who I think supplies something like 85% of all solar panels to the rest of the world, are somehow going to be compromised by Ed getting some people to make them over here. I'm sure there are companies over here that already do and have done for years to a degree. But we're talking about a new industrial revolution here.